The fuck going on with y'all, man, and welcome to the best Barbarian leveling guide for Diablo 4. This is my current level 50 Barbarian in World Tier 2 doing the Capstone Dungeon in order to reach World Tier 3. As you can see, it fucking slaps. For those that don't know, I've made a leveling guide for each of the classes so far in Diablo 4, and Barbarian was the last one to complete. The reason why is because I was told it was awful to level with, and that could not be further from the truth. In fact, I'd say with this Barbarian build, it was the second easiest class to level with Rogue being the first. So, with that being said, here's what we're going to talk about in this guide. The skills used in this build, Renown and the Barbarian Arsenal system, gear and the stats to look for, the Codex of Power and the good legendary aspects to use with this build, how to level from levels 1 to 50, and a few tips and tricks to help with your Diablo 4 experience. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Skills. I have mapped out exactly how to spend your skill points per level. I'm not going to explain every single skill point as some are self-explanatory and it would simply take too long, but I will explain the main skills we use and why we use them. Lunging Strike is our basic skill. It is one of the many ways that we generate fury. It also provides a little bit of lifesteal and some bleeding damage. Hammer of the Ancients is our core skill. This is our main damage dealer. If you have enough fury, then use this ability. Unfortunately, it does have a small area of effect, but good thing there's a legendary aspect we can use to fix this problem. That'll be later in the video. Rallying Cry is one of the two shouts that we use for this build and might possibly be the best skill we have. It gives movement speed, fury generation, and makes us unstoppable. War Cry is the other shout we use and grants Berserking and Fortify, two very strong defensive buffs. The cooldown for both of these shouts are fairly low, so feel free to use them in every fight. Leap is our mobility skill. However, I found myself using this ability to generate fury for more hammer slaps. The last skill we use for this build is Call of the Ancients, our ultimate. This ability summons 3 ancient barbarians to help you fight in battle. They do tons of damage, supply some crowd control, and generates even more fury. If you're about to fight an elite, a boss, or even a big pack of mobs, pop this ability along with your shouts and start the bonkage. Also, if you haven't noticed, we need plenty of ways to generate fury, and this is mostly due to the key passive we take at the bottom of our skill tree, Unbridled Rage. What is this? Damage. It's as simple as that. Alright, that covers the skills portion of this guide. Now let's talk about Renown and the Barbarian Arsenal system. As you're traveling around the open world in Diablo 4, you'll notice that you get Renown points every now and then. These points give extra stuff to your character, like skill points or potion capacity. If you are able to rack enough points to get Renown 3 in all regions, which I will mention later on how to get, then you get 10 extra skill points. Here's how I would spend them. These passives focus mostly on defense, because to be honest, there is more than enough damage with this build. Speaking of damage, let's move on to the Arsenal system. Every class gets their own unique power system in Diablo 4. For Barbarians, it's Arsenal, and it honestly might be the strongest one. Here is a table on the weapons and the benefits you get from each of them. Basically, this is how it works. When you use one of these weapons, over time they will gain their own experience, and eventually they will level up all the way to 10, giving a huge bonus to your character. There is also a technique slot which adds yet another positive aspect to your attacks. Obviously we want to level each of these weapons to 10 to get all the bonuses, but for the leveling process we're going to focus on just 2 types, two-handed maces and two-handed swords. Two-handed maces are needed to use the Hammer of the Ancients, our main damage skill. Two-handed swords are placed in the technique slot to add a bleed effect to our attacks, synergizing really well with Hamstring, one of the passive skills that we took earlier, which slows all enemies that are bleeding. Make sure to assign Lunging Strike to your two-handed sword weapon as you're leveling to be able to put it into the technique slot. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the Arsenal system for the leveling process. Let's move on to gear. I'm going to be honest here, the gear you get from levels 1 to 50 really doesn't matter because they will get replaced so fast in World Tier 3 and beyond. So while you're leveling and comparing items, if there are more green stats than red, then you're good to go. But if you do care about stats, then here are the ones that I would recommend. For our main weapon, we're looking for any two-handed mace or hammer with the highest DPS. If you end up finding a legendary one with sockets in it, go ahead and upgrade it no more than 3 times and put some emerald jewels for more damage. For the offhand two-hander, I would recommend a sword, again for the arsenal system. For dual wielding, just wear any one-hander you find that has core skill damage on it. On armor, strength is always a solid stat to have as a barbarian. Other good stats to have is cooldown reduction, attack speed, and any additional ranks to our skills. If you find a nice piece of armor with some sockets in it, go ahead and put some rubies for extra life. For jewelry, fury cost reduction is pretty nice on an amulet, and any type of damage modifiers you could find on a ring. Sockets? Skulls. Next, let's talk about the Codex of Power. The Codex of Power can be found at the Occultist. This is a place where you can imprint and extract legendary aspects, and there are a couple that work really well with this build. The first one is the offensive aspect of Ancestral Force. This lets Hammer of the Ancients, our main damage skill, hit a much larger area, adding quality of life to this build. You can obtain this legendary aspect by completing the Sunken Ruins dungeon in the Skoss Glen region. Slap it onto a legendary amulet and start killing huge packs of mobs at once. Another helpful legendary aspect you can use is the Bold Chieftain's Resource aspect. This reduces the cooldown of your shouts, and you can't really fight without them, so it's pretty useful. Unfortunately, this can only be found by obtaining it on a legendary ring, but when you do, go crazy with it. Other legendary aspects to look for are any that give any type of fury generation, because that helps you spam more hammer hits. Alright, that's just about it for the Codex of Power. Let's take everything we've learned so far and apply it to the next part of the guide. How to level from 1 to 50. Before I mention anything, I want to let y'all know that there are many ways to level in this game. What I'm going to show you is the way that I did it. So with that being said, let's get it, baby. If this is your first character in Diablo 4, then this is what I would recommend. From levels 1 to 30, you're going to focus on just doing the campaign. You do this because through the main story you unlock your mount, the Tree of Whispers, and the ability to skip the campaign for any future characters you make for that season. You might find yourself under level at some point, but it's fairly easy to beat, so you should be just fine. After you finish the campaign, from levels 30 to 40, it's time to explore. You're going to get on your mount and unlock all the waypoints, complete all the strongholds, and touch all the altars of Lilith. The reason why is because doing all of this gets you Renown 3 in all regions, giving you extra XP, skill points, and potion capacity. I know this seems like a lot of work, but remember, you only have to do this on one character because all your other characters for that season get these bonuses as well. From levels 40 to 50, you're going to do the Tree of Whisper objectives, while prioritizing dungeons that you haven't completed yet. These give good XP, good items, and fill up your codex for any aspects you might want to use later. Now, if this isn't your first character in Diablo 4, and you've already done the campaign, farmed Renown, and all that stuff, then I would just do the Tree of Whispers from levels 1 to 50. Here's the thing, there are definitely more efficient ways of leveling, like doing the same dungeon over and over again, or killing large packs of mobs as they spawn in a specific area. But I've tried these methods, and I got fucking bored. And honestly, they weren't even that much faster. So, at the end of the day, just do whatever you find fun. Alright, now that we've talked about the leveling process, let's move on to the last part of the guide. Tips and tricks. Here are a few little extra things to keep in mind as you're leveling your character in Diablo 4. For builds like this that are very cooldown dependent, we can't fight every single mob we come across. Instead, lure different groups of mobs near each other, creating a very large pack, and then start slamming away with the hammer. Use leap and your evade skill to help with this process. The difficulty that you should play on is, like most things in life, your choice, but I'd recommend staying in World Tier 1. That's because the extra golden XP you get from World Tier 2 is not worth the extra amount of time it takes to kill stuff. The only time you should do anything in World Tier 2 is if you have a twinked out character, or if you're completing the capstone dungeon in order to unlock World Tier 3. To help you do absolutely anything in this game, please use the interactive map. It is quite possibly the most useful tool when it comes to Diablo 4, besides like a build planner or something. This tells you where literally everything is in the open world. Dungeons, waypoints, altars, side quests, you name it. I'll go ahead and link it down below in the description. As you're leveling up, you'll probably notice an up arrow appear near your potion icon. This means it's time to go to your nearest alchemist and upgrade your potion. And to make sure you can upgrade your potion, remember to pick up any and all materials you find in the open world. Speaking of materials, any gear you find throughout the leveling process, just salvage that shit. The only thing you might want to keep are legendary pieces of armor with some good aspects on them, because later on you might want to use them. But don't go too crazy with this, because you most likely won't spend much gold during the leveling process. You're gonna need it later on when things start to get a lot more expensive, like upgrading your gear for example. Trust me, save that shit. Now let's talk about combos. Here's the general combo I would use when fighting elites, bosses, or large packs of mobs. First, you want to summon the homies. We do this first because these guys are affected by both our shouts, which is what we pop next. Now that we got our little army going with some decent free generation, it's time to smash. You should be able to spam the hammer as long as your dudes are alive, but once they're gone and you have no fury left, go ahead and leap to give you another slam. And lastly, before waiting for your shouts to come off cooldown, just alternate between lunging strike and hammer of the ancients. And there you have it, y'all. The best barbarian leveling guide for Diablo 4. And I am proud to say that with this video, I have officially completed making a leveling guide for all the classes. Let's fucking go, baby! Next, what I want to do is make a best endgame build for each class. Unfortunately, those videos are going to take longer to make because first, I have to level up and farm on each character, and then I got to put together a well-made video. So please, bear with me. But you bet your ass, no matter what, that I will push this Diablo 4 content. And if you're interested in any of it, throw me a sub, won't you? Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And remember to stay a while and listen. Peace out.